Fox News. Breaking news.
Tonight, the Fauci clock is ticking louder than ever. We are now just days from May 11th, the legal deadline tied to potential charges over Anthony Fauci's 2021 testimony to Congress. Social media is exploding with claims that the Department of Justice plans to let the clock run out. But here's the key point. There is no confirmed DOJ announcement saying that. What is confirmed is this, that Senator Rand Paul, Representative Nancy Mace, and a growing list of America First voices are demanding action now, especially after Fauci advisor David Morins was indicted last week. So the question is simple. Will the Trump Justice Department act before time expires? Now this matters because COVID was not some abstract policy fight on cable news. It hit your job, your church, your child's classroom, your family business, and your basic right to make medical decisions without government pressure. Americans watch troops pushed out over vaccine mandates, children fall behind after school closures, restaurants collapse, and federal money bleed out in fraud while the so-called experts lectured the country. Now, the same man at the center of those decisions is staring at a deadline tied to whether he lied to Congress about funding gain-of-function research connected to Wuhan. Now, politically, this is a test for whether accountability still exists in America. The former Biden administration handed Fauci a sweeping final day pardon by autopen, and critics are already raising serious questions about how valid that pardon really is. Meanwhile, a former senior Fauci aide has already been indicted on records-related charges. If the trail reached the aide, the American people are asking the obvious question: why should it stop there? And speaking of accountability and American strength, there is another major Trump-era development that you need to have on your radar tonight. This breaking news from the White House: they just announced over $30 billion to secure America's critical mineral supply chains and named a specific Alaskan project as a key strategic asset for U.S. mineral independence. Now, I've been to the Bisla copper drilling site in Canada myself. I've seen it with my own eyes. But what's happening right now in Alaska is bigger than most people realize. President Trump has just unveiled Project Vault, a $12 billion strategic mineral reserve designed to stockpile essential resources and keep America strong, supplied, and independent from foreign rivals. Bisla Copper is now getting serious attention as the story develops. Now, if you want to look into it yourself, the company trades in the United States under VCUFF and in Canada as VCU.V. Check the exclusive briefing. It's only for Next News viewers link below to see why this could be a major America First resource story. Now back to the question a lot of powerful people in Washington do not want answered before May 11th because the story is not just about a hearing exchange. Fauci is also on tape boasting about making life difficult for Americans so they would submit to vaccine mandates. His own words: if you want to go to college, if you want to work, you get vaccinated. That's the mindset millions of Americans lived under, and now as Fauci complains that too many Americans still refuse his shots, the public is being reminded exactly how aggressive that pressure campaign became. So that changes the temperature of this deadline completely. Now, according to Grok, there is no confirmation from the DOJ that they don't plan to indict Fauci. The statute of limitations on his alleged 2021 lying to Congress expires May 11, 2026. Representative Nancy Mace, Senator Paul, and others are publicly pressing the DOJ to act before the deadline, especially after Fauci aide David Morins was indicted last week for records violations. So the key point right now is very simple: no confirmation or stand down from the DOJ. The May 11th deadline is closing fast. Patrick Bet-David laying out the real-world damage of Fauci's COVID agenda and what it left behind. He says, reminder to the markets what Fauci's COVID policies delivered. 8,000 plus military forced out over vax mandates. Schools closed. Kids lost years. 100,000 restaurants bankrupt. 16,000 early on, according to Yelp. Myocarditis spikes in young men. $200 billion in PPP fraud. Bad policies have consequences. It's time to hold them accountable. Now, those costs were not abstract. They hit troops, kids, workers, and small businesses. Now, Rob Schneider turns that anger into a blunt moral indictment of Fauci himself. He says Anthony Fauci is America's Joseph Mengele. But if you do the math, Fauci caused many more deaths. And he was quote tweeting Laura Logan. Fauci did it first with HIV, then COVID. He knew exactly what he was doing. Crimes against humanity. Now Schneider takes the rhetoric straight to the wall, accusing Fauci of knowing exactly what he was doing. The Children's Health Defense, which is the organization that RFK Jr. used to head, shifting from outrage to the deadline, warning May 11th is the point of no return. They write that after May 11th, Anthony Fauci will be free forever for the many crimes against humanity he took part in surrounding COVID. The thousands who died from the COVID vaccines will have died for nothing. The millions with lifelong vaccine injuries will live on knowing the key figure who pushed and lied about the product that injured them will walk among them with zero repercussions. Tens of millions who have for years pleaded and cried for even an ounce of accountability for what occurred during COVID will know that their voices mean nothing. The only way to restore trust in public health is to hold those responsible for destroying it accountable. The clock is ticking. The DOJ must act before it's too late. Hashtag indict Fauci. So that's the pressure campaign in plain English. Act now or Fauci walks. And now you'll see the exchange Rand Paul's allies keep pointing to. Fauci on camera denying Wuhan gain-of-function funding.
Pandemic. What we're alleging is that gain-of-function research was going on in that lab and NIH funded it.
That is
you can't
not
get away from it. It meets your definition, and you are obfuscating the truth.
I'm not obfuscating the truth. You are the one. I'm not obfuscating the truth. You are the one. I'm not obfuscating the truth. You are the one.
Yeah. Look at his hand shaking. He knows he is guilty. He was literally shaking as he lied to Congress about funding gain-of-function research. So you saw the clash over Wuhan funding, with critics saying Fauci is shaking because he knew he was cornered. Now Nancy Mace turns that accusation into a direct demand for indictment before the clock runs out. She posted this today. We're calling on the Department of Justice to indict former National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease Director Dr. Anthony Fauci for lying to Congress before the 5-year statute of limitations expires on May 11th. Anthony Fauci looked at Congress in the eye and lied under oath about funding research tied to a pandemic killing millions of people worldwide, which he then used as justification to shut down our country. Former President Biden issued a blanket auto pen pardon to Fauci on his final day in office, covering unspecified offenses dating back to 2014. We have serious questions about the validity of that pardon. The American people deserve to know what was really happening when they were forced to quarantine, masked, and forcibly vaccinated in some cases. David Morenz, a former senior NIAID official who worked directly under Fauci, has been indicted. This mishandling came from the top. The investigation should start there too. Investigate Fauci mishandlings of COVID-19 pandemic from the top. So Mace says this didn't stop with one aide, and the trail leads straight to the top. Then we hear from Fauci himself, still scolding Americans for refusing the shots he pushed so hard. Dr. Fauci says he's deeply disappointed in Americans for not taking his vaccines when he demanded them to. He blames the anti-vax movement for undermining his efforts across the United States. Fauci says his goal was to vaccinate 72% of the population, but he failed to reach it. He says that is just unconscionable.
That's another whole problem in society. Is if the vaccine was accepted by society, we didn't have an anti-vax problem. We would have had a much, much more effective distribution of vaccine in this country. You're absolutely right. I mean, if everybody universally accepted that this was a safe and effective vaccine, we were trying to get 72% of the population vaccinated, and we never really got there. Whereas other countries had 85, 90% of their people vaccinated. So I think it depends on the country. That's different than the inequity that you have globally, which is, I think, more of a problem, that we had people getting their second and third booster before people in the developing world were getting their first shot. That's just unconscionable.
The fact that he's still walking around free is unconscionable. Even now, Fauci sounds less remorseful. been resentful, blaming Americans instead of his own failed edicts. Next up, Rand Paul cuts to the legal bottom line. 6 days left to charge him. He writes, 6 days from now on May 11th, the statute of limitations expires on the possibility of indicting Anthony Fauci for denying under oath that he funded gain-of-function research involving bat coronaviruses in Wuhan, the origin city of the pandemic. Paul narrowing the whole fight to a deadline and possible felony charge. Now comes video critics say shows exactly how Fauci viewed the public, making life hard enough and make life hard enough and people comply. This, of course, is the famous moment when he was caught on tape.
You were going to have schools, universities, and colleges are going to say, you want to come to this college, buddy? You're going to get vaccinated. Lady, you're going to get vaccinated. Yeah. Big corporations like Amazon and Facebook and all of those others are going to say, you want to work for us, you get vaccinated. And it's been proven that when you make it difficult for people in their lives, they lose their ideological bullshit and they get vaccinated.
Thank you. Are all objections to COVID vaccinations ideological bullshit, Dr. Fauci?
No, they're not, and
Thank
that's
you.
not what I was referring to.
Well, that's exactly what you meant when you said making it hard for people to live without getting a vaccination. You affected people's ability to work, travel, be educated, to actually flourish in American society, to self-determine, as we're all given God-given rights. Shame on you.
He belongs in prison. 1 week left to prosecute him. So it's a brutal reminder that the pressure campaign wasn't accidental. Next, Rand Paul raises the stakes again, saying Fauci's advisor was indicted and Fauci should be next. I've said it from the beginning, he writes, lying to Congress is a felony, destroying federal records is a felony, advising others to destroy federal records is a felony. Fauci did all three. His advisor was just indicted. Fauci is next. The deadline to prosecute Fauci is May 11th. The DOJ must act now. And he was linking to a New York Post article to pressure the DOJ. His argument's clear. If the aide's in legal danger, the boss shouldn't be untouchable. Up next, James Woods adds another angle, tying Fauci's case to a possible court fight over Biden's auto pen pardon. He writes, 8 days until the statute of limitations is up on Fauci. Besides getting to the bottom of the Wuhan bioweapons lab conspiracy that killed millions, or that saved the lives of millions, we should also get a Supreme Court decision on the validity of the absurd Biden auto pen pardons. Absolutely. So the fight isn't just about Wuhan or Congress. It could also test whether the pardon shield even holds up. Next, another old Fauci clip is back in circulation, and critics say it shows a long pattern going back to AIDS. Gain of Fauci posting, never forget that Anthony Fauci was wrong and lied about everything with AIDS before later doing the exact same thing with COVID.
Starting to see, as we're seeing virtually as the months go by, other groups that can be involved, and seeing it in children is really quite disturbing.
When you say other close contact, give me some examples.
Well, for example, if the close contact of a child is a household contact, perhaps there will be a certain number of cases of individual who are just living with and in close contact with someone with AIDS or at risk of AIDS, who does not necessarily have to have intimate sexual contact or share a needle, but just the ordinary close contact that one sees in normal interpersonal.
Dr. Fauci. Throwback is fueling the case. If Fauci didn't just fall once, he built a career on fear and spin. Now Rand Paul comes back with his sharpest charge yet, calling it the worst cover-up in modern medical history. The DOJ has 1 week left to charge Anthony Fauci for the worst cover-up in modern medical history. He lied to Congress about funding gain-of-function research in Wuhan. Millions died, trillions were spent, and Fauci walked away with book deals and fawning media coverage instead of handcuffs. I re-up my criminal referral to the DOJ because the evidence is overwhelming and justice has been delayed long enough. Retweet if you are ready to see Fauci behind bars. Well, Senator Paul, I'll do you one better. I'll broadcast it. How about that? So Paul isn't softening a word there. He wants handcuffs, not another media tour. Elon Musk weighs in with a one-line jab that's gone viral for a reason. Remember this post? My pronouns are prosecute Fauci. Next clip brings the fight back to the core question. A report now claims DOJ may simply let the statute run out. The Department of Justice does not plan to arrest Dr. Fauci and is expected to let the statute of limitations for lying to Congress expire. And that would be the greatest crime of all. So here's the moment that ties it all together. The deadline's real, the pressure's real, the trial is no longer theoretical. Rand Paul has renewed his criminal referral. Nancy Mace is demanding indictment before the 5-year limit expires. David Morans, a top Fauci aide, was indicted last week for records violations, and the central allegation has not gone away. That Fauci denied under oath that NIH funded gain-of-function work tied to Wuhan. That means this is not a social media tantrum. It is a live accountability test under the Trump administration. If DOJ moves, it tells the country that no expert, no bureaucrat, no media-made saint, no pardoned doctor is above the law. If DOJ does not move, millions of Americans will see a protected class in Washington that still escapes justice. So here's the bottom line. May 11th is not just another date on the calendar. It's a line in the sand for whether the biggest public health power players of the COVID era ever face consequences. The corporate press told you to forget. The political class told you to move on. But Americans remember. We remember the mandates, the censorship, the school closures, the job losses, and the arrogance. Under President Trump, this country is supposed to be done bowing to unaccountable bureaucrats. So here's my question for you. Should Anthony Fauci be indicted before the deadline? Yes or no? Drop your answer in the comments right now and share this report everywhere. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. And better yet, text raw feed to 844-840-4963 so you know when Anthony Fauci is indicted. It'll help you bypass the algorithm suppression of our work. You'll get the direct update from me to your phone when it matters most. And make sure you check out the Next News merch shelf below this video. The clock is ticking, Patriots, and America is watching.
The system controls information. Information control is power. I don't want you to see this. The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.